Well, hey, everybody, and welcome back to Early Childhood Chats. So glad you're joining us. Andy Roszak with you as always. And today we're really going to talk about a simple topic, but one that we struggle with. Kids are ready now. They're ready to lead. They're ready to problem solve. They're ready to contribute. But oftentimes we tell kids, someday you'll change the world. But then we struggle to kind of figure out when is that someday, right? And we keep kind of putting that off and off and off. And we don't want to put it off too long because we don't want someone to sit back and wait their turn or let somebody else lead. So today we're talking about how do we empower kids? How do we get them in that business entrepreneurial mindset? How do we do some fun things that are age appropriate but really help drive those skill sets home? And I'm super excited about the conversation, both as a father of a 2 and a 4-year-old and also, of course, someone that works in early childhood education. So let me introduce to you Leah Ellis. She's the founder and executive director of the Society of Child Entrepreneurs. And I love it because as soon as I see entrepreneur, I think of Shark Tank. So we're talking baby Shark Tank here today. But Leah is awesome. She's got a great background as a teacher, a business coach, an entrepreneur. And really her nonprofit is all about helping kids develop those leadership skills, getting them acquainted to business practices, marketing, thinking outside the box. Really having some fun, practical ways to truly have kid-led, fun intervention and learning. And I'll let Leah tell her own story, but I will say it's rooted in some of the inspiration she got from her own children. So without further ado, Leah, welcome to Early Childhood Chats. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the awesome work you're doing. So excited to learn more about how you got started and all the great things you've been up to.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. And thanks for that awesome introduction.
Well, of course, you're doing awesome stuff. We gotta shout it from the mountaintops here. So tell me about the Society of Child Entrepreneurs. How did it start? What's the genesis origin story here?
So we have to go way back pre-COVID. I have always been somebody who really loved working with kids. I love squishy little child brains and how you can form an entire society based on how you teach the kids, right? And so when I had my second daughter, my husband and I decided to open a family childcare. So I was licensed through the state of California, but my program ended up being all girls, which just kind of happened by coincidence. And so I was teaching engineering curriculum to 3-year-old girls, and I literally was doing like water rockets, and we watched rocket launches from Vandenberg and everything like that with these little girls. It was amazing.
Love it. Love it.
Unfortunately, one day my stove and my microwave just turned off. And when we pulled them out to figure out what was wrong, we found 10 years worth of water damage behind the walls of a house that I had only owned for a year and a half. It ended up taking them 6 months to repair my house. So obviously I couldn't run an in-home daycare in a construction site. My family moved into a hotel, and for some reason they wouldn't let me run an in-home daycare in the hotel either. So we shut it down for a hiatus. We thought we were going to just shut it down temporarily, and when our house was back open, we would go right back into running. At the time, our daycare was called Triceratops, and I loved it. Well, our grand reopening for Triceratops was March 17th, 2020. Which is the exact day that the County of Los Angeles issued their stay-at-home order.
Oh, jeez. What time?
Yeah. Nobody came to our grand reopening. Nobody came the following day. And within about 2 weeks, the city that we lived in had opened a free for essential workers child care center within walking distance of my house. And at that point, I realized we weren't reopening anytime soon, and it was time for my husband and I to figure out something else. He was deployed.
Hard to compete with free, right?
Exactly. No curriculum that you offer is going to be better than free. That's just the fact. He was deployed at the time, and I was home alone with our 1.5-year-old and our 4-year-old. And we decided it was a good time to pivot a little bit and create a financial coaching company, start working with adults. So I was watching training videos on how to be a financial coach, training videos on launching a new type of business. But since I was at home with the girls, I was putting the training videos on our living room TV so that I could kind of supervise them moving around the house and still see the training videos. About 3 weeks into it, my 4-year-old came up to me and said, "Mommy, I want to start a business too." At first, my initial response was, "No, you're 4. But you work with little kids and you know that every 4-year-old on the planet shares one favorite word. Every one of them loves the word why.
Why? That's right. Why?
Why? And with all of my business experience, all of my educating experience, all of my parenting experience, I had no answer. I didn't have a reason why she couldn't start a business. It just seemed like the answer should be no. So I said, well, what would you sell? And she had just taken up drip painting because I needed something to entertain them because we were all trapped at home. And she was like, well, I could sell my paintings. And it's, well, how? And she said, well, you use your computer to find people. Could I use your computer to find people too? And so what she was asking was, could she make a Facebook page like I had a Facebook page? And I was like, well, I guess I could manage a Facebook page for you and people could order paintings and then I could keep you busy when I need you to be busy. Fine. This is necessity. Mom needs you to be busy. And this is something that makes you not throw a temper tantrum in the middle of COVID, home alone with 2 little kids. Yes, you can start a business.
We'll take that, right?
Right. You can start a business too. So at first I thought it was going to be, 3 or 6 months of her like making some paintings, selling them to her grandparents and being really proud of herself. But we set up the Facebook page and I posted it in a couple of small business mom groups like that. And strangers bought art from my 4-year-old. And my 4-year-old told me, and even now she tells the story of feeling like her heart was going to explode because she was so excited because somebody wanted something she made. Like that's a confidence boost that grandma can't provide. That can only come from outside the home. And so after COVID, she did some art shows and she did some children's business fairs. And then I hosted my first children's business fair where I organized 11 kids into a room selling their products and then they left. And the educator in me said, wait a minute, we haven't taught them anything. We can't do this. I had a room full of willing students and I taught them nothing. So I convinced some friends to help me found the Society of Child Entrepreneurs. And now we take all of these kids who are excited about creating their own product, making their own money, and we've formalized the program so that we can teach them entrepreneurship, financial literacy, confidence, communication, leadership skills, doing something that they already want to be doing. So they're a captive and engaged audience, which is the hardest thing to ever get a group of kids to be.
You figured out the magic sauce there.
Yeah, money. Who knew?
Who knew? Well, that is certainly exciting, and kudos for not being someone who just plopped their kids in front of TV during the entirety of COVID. So thank you for not doing that.
Well, even the moments that I tried, my kids can't TV well. They start fighting over the TV.
Oh, jeez. Do you want Miss Rachel or do you want Paw Patrol? Because, we can't agree on it, right?
Well, and then it was like, okay, one of them wants Bubble Guppies and one of them wants to watch Sophia the First, and we can't alternate because that's just too reasonable.
Well. So you started this a few years ago. What's it like now? How's it going? What have you been up to? What are some fun things that you're doing?
So the biggest thing is we celebrated our first birthday last July. And when we celebrated our first birthday, we unveiled our new mascots because kids learn best from other kids. So instead of them having to listen to me talk, now they get to listen to everything coming from Astra and Zeke, who are 10 and 12-year-old business partners who run a business coaching business. So they're brilliant. I love them. And to celebrate Astra and Zeke, in November, we published our first book. So now we have a children's book where kids can see the basics of starting business right there in a picture book. And the very last page of the book says that Astra and Zeke teach child entrepreneurs just like you.
I love it. And this was a kind of born out of a very successful Kickstarter campaign. So kudos on that. Not everybody that goes on Kickstarter actually gets funded. So congratulations on that.
Well, it was a long process and there were definitely some nail-biting days, and the final pledge may have come from my husband, but we made it.
We made it. So when
Yes.
kids are plugging into your program, what does that process look like? How do they come into the program? How do they get engaged? Like, what does the whole kind of intake process look like here?
So there's two now. And so the first one, the traditional one, is for local kids here in Kansas. They come to me, they sit with me for 45 minutes in my office, and I talk about what do they enjoy doing, what do they like to make, what do they like to do, and figuring out, kind of flushing through how can that be a business, and letting them brainstorm while I ask a lot of questions. And then from that point, they can come to more workshops to learn how to fine tune that business. We teach mission and vision statements to 7-year-olds. People don't believe me, but I do.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And we teach them how to build their businesses. And in between that, we do our real life experiment on if they're learning anything. 4 times a year, we host a children's business fair. And when they do the business fair, the kids set up their booths, they talk to all their customers, they display their product, they sell, they keep the money. It is all children run. And for children 7 and up, their parents aren't allowed in the booth with them. So the kid is running everything on their own. Mom and dad have to go somewhere else. And so we have a parent corner, and it usually has some coloring sheets, some like drawing stuff, and some snacks. And parents have to stay in the parent corner. And you'd be amazed how excited the parents are that they get coloring sheets.
I love it. I love it.
Right. And so the kids get to learn with me, but then they get to go practice it and really do it for themselves rather than just listening to me tell them or watching it happen in stories. Because even we all know our kids watch their favorite TV show and then they go to the playroom and they act out that TV show. They need to act it out. They need to feel it. And so our children's business fair is a way for them to feel it. And so it's so much fun to see the kids talking to strangers and selling their products and referring strangers to each other's businesses because they build such great relationships with each other. The second way that we're launching next week is for people who aren't in Kansas who want to be involved with us. They can join our online group called the Sochi Circle. And from there, we have support for parents that want to know how do they teach entrepreneurship at home, lesson plans for educators. So they can literally just print out a lesson plan and go teach it in their classrooms. All of that right there in one place. So this can be something that's truly nationwide because there's no community that can't benefit from children learning leadership.
Absolutely. And you said something to me in one of our email exchanges. You said, messy hands lead to bold futures. I thought that was awesome. I mean, I don't know where you came up with that, but man, that really resonates. Awesome.
Right. Well, I literally had paint in my living room. And now I have a 10-year-old who has given 5-minute mini keynotes and guested on live podcasts. I mean, she is bold, and it started very literally with paint in my living room.
I love it. I love it. So at some of the kids' fairs, obviously, paintings. What are some of the other products or things that the kids are peddling?
So we have 2 kiddos who have their own 3D printers. You can get the little toy box thing. Yeah. So we have lots of cool 3D printed stuff, which I always love seeing what the kids can come up with that they've 3D printed. We have, obviously, bakers who sell chocolate chip cookies. We have one girl, her name is Gemma. And so she sells Gem&M cookies, and they're cookies with M&Ms inside of them. They're so cute. We have, obviously, a lemonade stand, but it's not just any lemonade stand. These girls sell specialty lemonade with snow cone flavorings and glitter.
Oh, my goodness.
It's the most beautiful lemonade you will ever have in your life. And it also tastes amazing. The hand squeezes the lemons and everything. We have one kiddo, he is 13, and he does not like that his peers are not avid readers. So he sells custom drawn bookmarks, and each bookmark on the back has a list of 10 books in your preferred genre that he recommends you read next, so that you have right there book recommendations, so you can't say you don't know what to read next.
I love it. What bunch of creativity.
There's so much creativity in this room. And then we have my daughter has switched from paintings to graphic design. So she sells really cute graphic designs that she's created and little prints that you can stick on your wall. We have one sketch artist who creates the most beautiful characters. Yeah, these kids are amazing. And being able to walk through that room and see all of the things that these kids have made, and that they're not doing the stuff that we've pigeonholed that we expect them to do.
Right.
Because it's not all bracelets, it's not all drawings, it's not all lemonade. These are kids who are really thinking outside the box and spreading their wings when we let them.
Have you gotten a lot of support from, I don't know, local chambers of commerce or the business community? Or I would imagine community partners must love what you're doing here.
So yeah, it's amazing the support that we get from like our local chamber of commerce. We are members and they do lots of supporting and outreach for us. We had a really cool ribbon cutting where we had to get lots of business owners got to come hang out with us. And then we have another organization that is kind of like a mix between a business group and a country club. So it's a very high-end business group. And they're actually working on sponsoring our March Madness tournament. And you mentioned thinking baby Shark Tank. We are actually doing a March Madness pitch contest. So
nice.
Our kiddos, we have 16 kiddos who will do a 1-minute pitch on their business. And then we will post those videos on our Facebook groups and in our Sochi circle. And people will be able to vote on the best pitches. And we will have a winner of the best pitch. And that pitch winner will get some really nice perks at our April business fair.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, wow, this is fantastic. So put your family childcare hat kind of back on.
Mm-hmm.
How can we best integrate this? Obviously, you're a fantastic resource. You're opening up your online community, which people can join and become a part of. I encourage you to do so. What are we thinking about? How can we bring this more into early childhood? How can we talk about these, recognizing that a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, a little bit different than a 7, 8, 12-year-old, right?
Right. So I think the biggest thing is most people start this entrepreneurship, this leadership training in middle school or high school. And you and I both know 90% of your subconscious beliefs are formed by the time you're 7. Your confidence starts when you're 6 months old and you realize that you and mom are a different person and you start identifying who are you. So asking our 2, 3, 4-year-olds a lot more questions. Because we all know 4-year-olds are the masters of asking questions. But what happens if you ask them a question and let them ponder their own responses? One of my favorite things to do, even with preschoolers, is ask them, if you could change one thing about your day, what would you change? And then when they tell you the one thing that they would change, ask them, how would you change it? Because don't ask them why, because they're going to say, well, because it's boring or because I don't like it. But ask them like, well, how would you change it? And then let them start brainstorming what the solutions would be on how they could make it better. One, because we're teaching them that they have that control over their lives, which is so important for that age range because they need to know that they have control over something. And 2, because then we're showing them that we respect and we listen to them, which makes them feel so much more secure in themselves. It helps with the attachment. There's so many things in those little brains that are happening when you sit down on level ground and ask them a question.
I love it. And it really goes back to, what we said at the onset here, like kids are ready now, not someday. There's really no reason to wait. And I'm worried that, if you do wait too long, you've seen it, I'm sure. It just, my ideas don't matter, or I can't contribute meaningfully, or, they don't care what I think, which, again, look, a 4-year-old's going to have 4-year-old ideas, and we get that. But there could be value there, right? I mean, come on.
Well, even my daughter, when she was 4 years old and she wanted to start her business, her idea was, I like painting and people hang stuff on their walls. So I can give them paintings. But now I made her write a mission and vision statement for this painting business. And she told me, well, my mission is to cure our community of boring white walls.
Wow.
Even a 4-year-old doesn't like a boring white wall. Nobody likes a boring white wall.
Nobody
At 4 years old, she couldn't articulate, my mission is to cure us of boring white walls, but she could articulate, I want more paintings on the walls. So meet them where they are, and as they get older, help them refine it.
Well, what I really like about this too is you're giving that space for kids to be not only creative, but also for kids to try stuff. And I think, I was talking to somebody yesterday and the conversation came up, when is it okay to let my child quit? And that's a tough question, right? And of course, as parents, nobody wants to see their kids fail and all that kind of stuff. But you and I both know there's probably a lot you can learn when you freeze, when you struggle, when you fail. All those are teachable moments, which, quite frankly, we all do throughout our whole life. But there's hesitancy there, right? It's I want to keep kids in this safety bubble. I don't want them to go too far from where I think they're at as a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old. And sometimes that does actually hold people back, I think, right? So you're creating that space, a safe space, an environment that's supportive. They see their peers doing it. You've got, Zeke there, supporting and all sorts of stuff. So what does that kind of look like? I'm sure some of the folks have failed. How do you kind of turn that on the head so it's not a negative, but it's more of a positive?
So one of the future Astra and Zeke books, it's not finished yet, and it's not going to be published probably for another year, but it's on failing forward. And in the book, we have this character who has created these awesome galaxy-themed slimes, and she's set up at the local park, and she just knew she was going to sell out. Not even her grandma bought from her. She didn't sell anything all day. And so she goes to Astra and Zeke, and she's like, I'm giving up. I'm shutting down my business. And Astra and Zeke are like, okay, well, let's look at what was going on. And they were like, well, I was close to the playground. The jars were hard to open, so people couldn't sample it. And there was a cupcake seller close to me. And her line was really busy. All right, well, so how can we make this better? Yes, this worked. This didn't work. What can we adjust so that it does work? Well, I could put some samples out, and I can go a little bit further from the playground when people are leaving the park, so it's something they can take on their way out, and then maybe people will be more interested. And so they say, right, these are how you can change it. And she says, so I didn't fail. And they said, no, you failed forward. You had to learn. So now you've learned how to make it better. And it's the same thing I teach our students. Sometimes something isn't going to work. And that means it's your opportunity to put your problem solving back on and figure out, what do I do to make it better? The other thing I will tell them if they want to know when to quit is on a high note. Don't quit when you've failed. Go back one more time and quit on that high note. If you have a really good day and you still don't want to do it, then it's safe to say you don't want to do it. But if you just quit because you've had a bad day, then that's just surrender, not really quitting.
I love it. I love it. It's a tough thing. And, again, like you don't want to see any kid fail because, you just don't. You want to protect them from that. But it's a very important skill. And I appreciate the approach you're taking to kind of make it more meaningful and impactful. And I love that term failing forward. It's something we hear in business all the time, but not often in early childhood.
But even a toddler, when they're learning to walk, they fail forward. Every time they take one step and fall, they fall down face first. They're literally failing forward. Right. And that was their lesson on, okay, my foot can't go there. I need to put my foot a little bit further forward or a little bit further apart. Even in early childhood, they are failing forward. Every time they try and write their name and they get the H backwards, they failed forward because it was still a step in the right direction.
And I got to imagine that the parents that are part of this must have some really incredible feedback for you about, like, well, look, we've got we got ballet, and we've got, this, we got t-ball, we got soccer, we got all these little activities. Some of them are just, let's get the kid out of the house and burn off some energy and, have some fun. But I feel like if they're working with you, you probably get some really incredible feedback about how this has changed thinking and how it's changed mindset and even just, energy, passion, drive, those types of things.
We have a lot more kids who have a more ability to sit with some discomfort. Because when you're playing sports, you're playing instruments, you're doing other activities, it's a lot of moving and it's a lot of perfection. When you dance ballet, they expect you to be perfect on that stage. But with business, this is the kid's opportunity to not strive for perfection, but to strive for better. So it's a great way to build that confidence that every step is a step forward, and we're not as critical as I think sports or ballet or music can be. We also, with our parents, we see so many kids who have really come out of their shell because they build so much confidence in what they're creating and what they're doing that they become a lot more willing to talk about stuff that they didn't want to talk about before.
I'm just, in my head, I'm just rattling through everything from creating products, creating services, setting prices, engaging customers, talking, speaking publicly, learning through experience, transactions, learning about money, math.
Yep.
I mean, you talk about, STEM or STEAM or whatever we're calling it nowadays, but like this checks a tremendous amount of boxes here.
Right. Well, so we are drafting, and actually our first pilot class is tomorrow, a full 36-week curriculum for
Wow.
3rd and 4th grade. And part of it's SEL aligned, it's Search Institute's top 40 developmental assets aligned, it's Jumpstart financial literacy aligned, and it's all stuff they're learning in 1 hour increments.
This is
That
phenomenal.
apply. I mean, when you look at a multifaceted curriculum, entrepreneurship and leadership are really something that touches every single thing your child is going to do every single day of their life, even if they never own their own business.
Well, and you could really see this really becoming a partnership between an early childhood program where the child attends and then, of course, the parents at home. I mean, this is a natural fit for translation. They work on it a little bit when they're at school. They work on it when they come home. This kind of crosses those boundaries, which, I'm really, really impressed by what you're doing here. This is a really cool thing.
Thank you.
So what do you think is next? You've got the online course launching, and if people want to plug into this and be a part of it, what's an easy way to kind of sign up, learn about it, become engaged in this?
Our Facebook page has the link, and it's Society of Child Entrepreneurs. And then I will give you the link directly to, it's on school. So it's school.com/Sochi Circle, which is SOCECIRCLE. And that's where they can join us. And then because it's an online learning platform, it has paid tiers and free tiers. But one of the most important things to me is that the free tier still includes all of the community. So all of the educators and all of the kids can all communicate with each other. And we do have a child-only forum where the child entrepreneurs get to talk to each other about business.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I saw you were reaching out for, other experts to come and join you. I looked to,
Yes.
Accountants, attorneys, all the above, everything you need in business. You've got to call out and say, hey, if you want to help, if you want to volunteer, if you want to donate, all those things are welcome, right?
Right. And we're a 501c3, so it's a tax write-off.
We love that. We love that. It's interesting that you think about, just some of the networks and some of the shops that our child care resource and referral agencies have. And certainly in Kansas, you've got a strong one with Child Care Aware of Kansas and their regional offices. But this would seem like, something really fun to do at a child care resource and referral level of getting a bunch of providers, getting kind of a little cohort of small entrepreneurs. Or I'm just hung up on the tiny Triceratops. What a great name. I mean, gosh, I hope you trademarked that or something.
I didn't, and I don't even use it anymore. So if somebody out there really wants to use Triceratops, you have my permission. I release it to you. But the other thing, and we could do this in a preschool. Sometimes when we have a lull in class, I will take a bunch of random office supplies and throw them into a drawstring bag. And I'll make the kids pull out a random item and give me 30-second pitch on why I should buy that item from them. And you could absolutely, with a group of 4-year-olds, give them a bunch of random toys and have them give you a 30-second pitch on why that's the best toy in the classroom. And that's already teaching them creative thinking and teaching them communication and teaching them how to just get up there and be confident. And it would be super easy for a bunch of 4-year-olds to do. In fact, I want to do that with my son now.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, I'm going to have that in my living room tonight, actually, when the kids get home. So
just give them 5 or 6 toys and tell it. Obviously, with the 4-year-olds, you need to show them first, pull out your toy and tell them why it's the best toy, and then let them all show you why their toy is the best toy. And it a little bit with disappointment with those 4-year-olds, because if they get a toy that isn't their favorite toy, they still have to tell you why it's the best.
That's true. That's true. Fake it till you make it, right?
Right.
You've also got a really good success story I wanted to hear from you about your 8-year-old creative marketing director.
Yeah. So she's 10 now. I probably should update that. But my daughter started our business when she was 4. When we started the Society of Child Entrepreneurs, we brought her on as our marketing director and junior executive director. So she helps with our graphics. She helps do podcast visits. And she did give a full 5-minute keynote on her entrepreneurial journey when she was 9, which was a story of the 5 years she's been in business, coming from a 9-year-old, which is just crazy to think about. And she absolutely, one of my favorite recent stories, she broke her wrist on the monkey bars at school, because that happens to everybody. It's one of those check marks of youth. Broke my wrist in the playground. And she is a maker. Like, she paints and she makes beads and things like that. And she was like, what do I do? So we had our member night coming up, and I had written a full lesson plan on budgeting and how to set pricing for your products based on the amount of money that went into it, the amount of time that went into it, the amount of profit you want, like this whole big thing for these kids. And she looked at it and she said, this is really good. I think we should do it in January. But this month, I want to do a lesson. Can you tell us what to do if we can't run our business? And so what she was really asking is, if there's a challenge that stops me from running the way I want to run, what do I do? And because she's our junior executive director, she's our creative marketing director, she came to me and said, this is what I think our members need right now. And so I wrote a whole new lesson plan on how entrepreneurs deal with challenges in their business. And we talked about how you only have 3 choices. You can pause, you can pivot, or you can find a partner. And then we did a 2-hour discussion on what your choices are, how to decide which one you want to do. And then they had to do a fake version of that, where if something bad has happened to their business, what are they going to do?
I love it. Look, that's resilience. I live in the emergency disaster world, and bad things do happen to our businesses. And sadly, after a disaster, about 40% of businesses don't reopen, and it plagues communities like, Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, and
right.
Kansas is not immune to tornadoes and earthquakes and other disasters. So the resiliency, that ties right in with the whole fail forward thing and continuity of operations and all that. So, I would never in a million years think about even trying to talk about those topics with, someone that young, but you've successfully figured out how to navigate that. That's unbelievable.
Well, I think part of it just comes from thinking like a child. I think most of us who want to teach 5-year-olds are secretly still 5, and we just like them because they're fun to play with. So I just put on my think like a kid hat. Like, if I was a kid, what would I need to know in this situation, and how would I approach it? And then a lot of bouncing ideas off of my kids and our junior board of directors, because we do have 5 kids between the ages of 10 and 13 who help run our organization. So I just go back to them if I don't know, and I'm like, how does this make sense to you guys?
Wow, what's phenomenal. You're just doing such great and interesting things. I'm blown away. It's really exciting to hear, and I didn't even know something like this existed. And I hope everybody listening really takes advantage of all the work that you've done. Your expertise, you've got books, you've got curriculum, you've got, communities out there. I hope everybody plugs into it, because it's a whole different mindset of looking at things. And I think it's really innovative. Kudos to what you're doing there.
Thank you. Honestly, I had never understood that whole, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Because even when I ran a daycare, like, running a daycare is hard work. I'm working with little kids. But when I'm writing this curriculum and I'm working with these kids, I really finally understand what that you'll never work a day in your life is, because it is just so much fun.
Well, you're having a great time. You're being successful. You've got some new and innovative stuff coming out. Man, congratulations on all you've been up to. If people want to volunteer, mentor, support, what's the best way to do that for you guys?
The easiest thing for me, because I am very millennial, is go on our Facebook page and either message me there or go attend one of our events, because I keep everything on Facebook. Come hang out with us, and then join the Sochi Circle when we launch it, because that'll be, especially for educators, really cool, because it'll be where you can join our pilot programs. So when I have new ideas or I want to test a new program, you'll be the ones who get that lesson plan and get to test it in your classroom, and then give me feedback on what does and doesn't work.
Oh man, that's fantastic. We'll make sure we post all that in the show notes. We'll share it on our social media channels. We'll try to amplify it so you get a lot of folks signing up for it, because I'm sure the feedback will be helpful, but growing the network's going to be phenomenal too. And
just seeing
online, you can do it anywhere now.
Right. And well, I am going to go when we finish and write a lesson plan for bringing this to preschools. And like, here's my one, I'll come to your preschool one time and do a little thing. We can do an hour and a half in a preschool and they would have fun.
Yeah. And it would be something where, you could easily weave this into existing plans, lessons, etc.,
Right.
and reinforce a lot of stuff. And then the good thing is, like, you build the momentum. Like, it doesn't just stop with the one visit. It then
Right.
becomes kind of a thing that you can incorporate, and then share your work with others and everything else. So you've got my head spinning on different ideas and stuff too. I wish we have our conference coming up in Puerto Rico in March, and there's not enough time. But I'm thinking ahead to next year for the conference. Boy, wouldn't it be great to have a group of kids that we could highlight at the conference, have them, because we usually have community members come and set up vendor tables.
Yeah.
Especially like Head Start parents that have stuff to sell or whatnot. But how great would it be to have like a dedicated kids section where they could come? We could actually see this stuff in action. So you've got
Absolutely.
my head spinning. I mean, it's phenomenal stuff.
Email me and we can set something up. I'm sure we can get some kiddos that want to have a little vacation, especially March when they've got spring break.
And the weather's still cold. Yeah,
Yes.
on the beach doesn't sound like a bad idea for sure.
Exactly. Well, and this year our weather has been so weird. Who knows what it's going to look like next year?
Well, that's true. That's true. So, couple just rapid fire questions here. One thing that you would recommend that a teacher could do in their classroom next week to bring some of this stuff in and introduce some of these ideas?
Ask kids lots of questions about what they want to see in the world.
Okay.
How do you think we could change our classroom routine? How do you think we could change our getting ready in the morning routine? How do you think that you could make it easier at the grocery store? And when they start answering them, ask them what that would look like or how they would do it.
One misconception that adults have about kids and leadership.
That they have to wait until they're old enough or they're old enough to vote. And that's exactly how we end up with a bunch of apathetic adults because we've been told too many times to wait our turn. It's already their turn. Ask now.
I love it. If you are in school right now thinking about getting into early childhood education, what advice would you give somebody that's thinking about entering the field?
Prepare yourself for lots of cuteness because I love working with the little kids and how adorable they all are and pinching all the cheeks. Don't pinch their cheeks though. Prepare yourself for all the cuteness and make sure you get really good at listening closely, especially to the little ones who are just learning how to talk.
Good advice. Good advice. And how about this one? One more. One thing that you learned through this journey.
I think the biggest one that I've learned is exactly what I'm trying to tell everybody else. Our children aren't the future. I know we all like to say the children are the future, they're the leaders of tomorrow, but they're actually present right now. And I think especially in early childhood, it's one of those moments where we have to stop thinking about who are they going to be someday and start focusing on who they are now and how do we help them develop that.
Well said. Well said. Well, Leah, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, and thank you so much for all the work you're doing. This is just phenomenal, and I wish you nothing but success. We'll definitely be looping back around. We'll be sharing all this and trying to figure out some ways to incorporate some of this stuff and conferences and other events we've got coming up too, because I think it's a natural fit and would love to be a part of it. It's very, very cool that what you were doing. Thank you for being so innovative here.
Thank you. And thanks for having me. And thanks for any support that you offer, because it is just about getting the word out and encouraging more kids.
Absolutely. Well, we'll put links to all that kind of stuff. I do encourage you to visit, donate, do all that fun stuff, join the cohorts, join the Facebook page, all that kind of great stuff. We've got Leah, who's really doing some phenomenal stuff. Let's support her any way that we possibly can. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. This was really interesting. It's kind of a different take on something that we, think about, but aren't always the best at doing, getting kids, engaging kids, and kind of talking to kids as adults in some way and introducing these big complex themes that they're going to have to learn sooner or later. So might as well be sooner, right? Let's get it going.
Right.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much for joining us, Leah. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on a future episode of the Early Childhood Chats podcast.